This is the Quorum podcast. In this episode, we had the great opportunity to sit down with oil and gas veteran John Scheier. In 1992, John embarked on a historic journey that would allow him to see firsthand how software and technology would play an integral role in the energy sector. From mainframe computers and data delays to instant data in the palm of your hand to the dawn of a paperless infrastructure, John shares his 28-year journey. Along the way, he talks about the Denver market, including drilling with electric equipment, better known as quiet drilling. We begin the interview where it all began in 1992 with his college graduation in Houston, Texas. If you would just kind of give a little bit of history. It sounds like you are quite the veteran here in the oil and gas space.
I didn't feel old till I started telling you how long I've been in the industry. So I actually graduated from college in 92 in Houston and was picked up during a recruiting stint for Unocal, which is Union Oil and Gas Company out of California.
Oh, great.
They had an office there in Houston, and they hired about 30 of us right out of college. And out of the 30, I was the only one who went to joint venture accounting. So for those of you who aren't familiar with joint venture accounting, you kind of get a little taste of everything. It's the cost side, it's the expenses, it's capital. There's payouts involved, so you get involved in revenue and production. And there's a lot of audits involved. So you kind of get a real good flavor of what's going on in the industry. To top that off, the group I was in was the Texas, Louisiana coast and Gulf of Mexico. And it was the start of deep water exploration. Okay. So a lot of the projects that I was working on were related to deep water wells, which at the time were, $30, $40, $50 million projects that were going on. A lot of times your partners went non-consent on portions of it, so you had payouts. It took a long time for those projects to come online, so there was a lot of capital expenditures going on. There was a lot of build-outs, a lot of audits, and then towards the end, you'd start seeing revenue come in.
But that's over many years?
I did that for about 2 years. Unocal tried to be cutting edge. When I first started, this will date me pretty quickly, I was the first one on the floor with a IBM desktop computer. I think it was a PS1. It was running WordStar and Lotus 1-2-3. So I was one of the
jump there. Huh?
Yeah, I was one of the spoiled people who had a computer. But one of the things they did after I had been there a couple of years was they decided to do an ERP implementation. And at the time it was with Oracle. We started off with the United States, working on California, the Gulf Coast, Mexico, and all that. I was lucky enough to be pulled onto that project to work on the financial and cost side of that. So AFE, joint venture, and financials. Great experience, great exposure, not only to more of the inner workings of oil and gas, but also how software works.
So you're seeing software now become a big part of
software even back then, it all revolves around getting the right information and getting that information in a timely manner. When I started, I mentioned I had the first, PC on the floor. Everything was on a mainframe back there. So you filled it out on a piece of paper, you submitted it to the key punch group, and within a day or two, if you were lucky, it would be put into the mainframe and you could sign on to your CRT and see output. But you really couldn't pull data in. It wasn't integrated. You could see revenue or you could see cost, but you couldn't really pull them together. There was nothing like that. So this project we undertook was, for us, it was groundbreaking because we were finally going to be able to have a system that could pull all of that information and together and make it available to those people who needed to make those decisions. So it was fantastic. When that project was over, they thanked me for all my hard work and wanted to send me back to be an accountant. And honestly, I didn't want to do that. So
you saw the software. You saw where this might want to go.
Yeah, I mean it was awesome. The change that software was making back then in what was 94, I guess 94, 95. Just to see how that could affect the industry and what was going on at the time, and how to get that information in a more timely manner to make those decisions, and get a couple steps ahead of your competition. It was huge back then. So I ended up leaving Unical and went to work for Oracle. I was in their energy vertical, which was basically oil and gas, and on their services side. Being a young individual, they had a lot of overseas opportunities. So I ended up doing multi-year projects in Thailand, Australia. My first project was actually supposed to be in Italy, but it got canceled at the last minute.
Oh, wow. That would have been a good one, too.
Yeah.
All those other ones are amazing as well.
The international travel aspect was awesome. Because for those of you familiar with the oil patch, we're usually not in the beautiful places when we're in the United States. We're kind of out, where people drill wells, which is away from population. So not a lot of excitement. But being over in Thailand, I had a fantastic client. Down in Australia, again, another fantastic client, and got to see more of how oil and gas industry works in an international setting. The basics are still there, but they do everything just a little bit differently.
Do everything differently structure-wise or pacing-wise, like the culture?
Pacing-wise is a big one. You have to be very patient over there. Nothing moves fast. And a lot of that depends on which country you happen to be at the time. Some are a lot slower and more relaxed than others. Some have paces that are similar to the U.S. They also don't have as many partners overseas. So when you're in the U.S., you may have 2 or 3 working interest owners going in on a well with you, and then 30, 40, 50 royalty owners who you're cutting checks to every month for revenue. Overseas, it's usually the government and then the operator. So it's just a different mindset. So data sizes may not be as big in the database, but the complexity of calculating expenses and revenues and production can be significantly more difficult. So again, broadening that horizon, seeing what's out there and picking up on that, trying to make the product work better for international customers as well as domestic. So very exciting time for me.
Very exciting time for the industry, huh?
Yeah, it was a great time for the industry, and overseas especially. One of the projects I was on in Bangkok, they would drill a well to total depth within 3 or 4 days. They were in the shallow bay, so they were able to hit TD pretty quickly. So they'd turn out wells left and right. So getting them that information in a timely manner so they could see what they were spending and start forecasting forward for the rest of the wells was very important to them. And tie that in with reporting capabilities for the government and, helping the accounting group get what they needed to do so they could report to the government was all, it was very exciting for me versus coming from the U.S.
Yeah, most definitely. So you're now seeing software do things that you could not do before, and certainly not in the time frame that you're talking about.
Right, far beyond my Lotus 123 and WordStar documents that I was filling out every month. Now I've got a relational database that's got data in there, timely data that can be processed during the day, during the night, whatever. And the next morning, everybody's available to come in and start looking at that data and making decisions based on that data.
Wow. Do you remember being in the moment thinking, holy cow, we're doing something? Or is it one of those connecting the dots? And
it was just kind of connecting the dots. No aha moment, no light bulb over the head. But especially in the overseas market, when you're in front of those people, you're not usually dealing with 3rd or 4th level managers. You're usually in a room with senior executives, and seeing them light up when the information they've been trying to get for years is now readily available on their desktop for them to look at. It's big. You're making a difference somewhere, somehow.
No doubt. So you're talking, what did you just say, days? What's the software able to take from days to?
Back then, when I first started, we'd hand off stuff to Key Punch every day, and it was usually the last 2 days of the month we would start seeing results. And then we would close by the second week of the next month. Okay. So that's when you would start seeing data. So you basically had a 30-day window where, unless you were sitting on the rig and were seeing the invoices come in or the receipts come in from your vendors, you really had no idea what you had spent until the report comes out. And then if the report was wrong, you have to go through all of that to get it fixed again. Whereas now, they put in an AP invoice, it's processed, and that day you can see the AP invoice sitting in the system.
Oh, wow.
So, it was a huge change.
I think, definitely. I hope anybody that's listening has been out there, take a moment for that, because instantaneously pretty much is much better than 30 days. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's amazing. So you're doing these stints overseas. Eventually, I assume you make your way back to the States?
I make my way back to the States. I'm still in services, wonderful places like, I can't even remember some of them, middle of nowhere, Texas, middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, Bakersfield, California. And then somewhere along the line, I decided to get married and start a family. I didn't really want to travel anymore. The company I was working for wanted me to travel and didn't give me much other choices. So I ended up jumping ship again and coming into another oil and gas software company, but at this time in the development side. So I was now building software, or help building the software, and running all of the functional people who worked in that group. So working with the customers, finding out what their needs were, working with the subject matter experts to then design software that would fit those needs, and then working with the development group to actually build and deliver that software. So,
oh, wow. So you said before you were in services, so now you're taking the knowledge that you learned in services and now implementing that into how to create. And are you actually typing the code? Or are you more the architect, the visionary? Or?
more visionary, more architect. I do have some coding skills that can save me in the middle of the night, maybe yourself if you have a problem, but you really don't want me writing any long-term code.
All right. So that's wonderful. So now you're with this company, now you're writing code. Are you seeing another paradigm shift?
We're seeing a lot more of the digital age, starting to look at pulling in documents and having documents available for view. So, we talked about being able to see AP information the next morning. Well, now not only are we able to see AP information, but now we're able to see images of the AP invoice. We've got revenue checks that we've received, and we can now see a copy of the check and all the pay below it. So I don't have to go ask somebody to pull me the data. I don't have to go, digging through a file room to find out what that invoice was, and if somebody miskeyed it, I can actually pull it up, see it on my laptop screen, and say, hey, this is incorrect. It should have been coded to X, send it back, and get it resolved.
Okay. And that's all in a daily
basis, yeah.
And you mentioned the word laptop, so I guess now we've moved from mainframes. Now we're starting to get mobile.
We're not on mainframes. We're not on PS1s anymore. Now we're running laptops. So I did that for about 10 years and moved up to Denver during that time period. I'd previously been based out of the Houston area and saw some openings in the industry to get back in and take my knowledge and experience and start helping individual companies. So jumped ship, left software, went back into the oil and gas industry with a small public company and was helping them get more of their daily information type systems up and running. So building data warehouse,
nice.
Getting all the information in there, bringing in scanned images, et cetera. So it was one-stop shopping, so a single source of the truth. So anybody who had access to the system, whether it was, the CEO, CFO, or if it was pumper out in the field, could pull it up, see what their lifting cost was for the day, see what their invoices were, see the images of those invoices. If there's allocations, they could look at the allocation, they could drill back and see what drove that allocation. So really getting that information down to the end user, the people who are on the spot making those decisions so they can make the best decisions for.
Oh, that's wonderful. So now I've heard a lot of the term, connecting the field office to the back office. I mean, it sounds like this is a convergence of exactly that, because you're now having one, as you use, single source of the truth that doesn't have to get shipped out real time, everybody can see what's going on.
Exactly. Even when we talked about earlier, getting that information out to people on a daily basis, the AP invoices, that was great. But the people in the field still weren't connected. Now here we are, 8-10 years later. Now I have, the technology has moved forward. Now I have people in the field who, through wireless or whatever, can now connect to those same databases and get that same information. So we're, rapidly moving over 20 years, whatever, moving the software forward to meet the needs, but then moving the technology forward to meet the needs, and then jumping again with the software to give the clients what they need and then pushing technology to keep up with it.
Wow. So do you still see or hear of customers or people out in the field still doing it as if they were on the PS1 or I guess what I'm really, can you do this now without software?
It's interesting because I actually jumped ship a second time and went to another oil and gas company who was private at the time with the goal of taking them public. And they were using Excel spreadsheets, et cetera, to manage day-to-day operations, which when you're a private company, you can kind of get away with that. But you're still not getting the information that people need out to them. So one of the goals was, in order to go public, you needed to have a system that was auditable, SOX auditable, compliant, et cetera. So we moved them onto a system to get that information out there. What we also did was we're like, okay, hey, we're making this step. We need to make a big step. I don't want to catch up to the competitors. I want to pass our competitors in the field. So let's see what's out there. So start looking at handheld devices, phones, Microsoft Surface, iPads, you name it. What do I need out in the field? What do the pumpers need to see? What do the drilling engineers need to see, et cetera? Start working backwards from there. What can I push out to a pad? What can I push out to a phone? What can I push out to a laptop? And start figuring it out. Water haulers. Why am I pushing paper around with the water haulers? Let's push that out. Water hauler's got a phone on him. Have him pull up the form on the phone, put in what he picked up, where he picked it up, hit save. Now I've got the information on my server. I don't need a piece of paper to push it around. I know what was going on. Quorum just did a great acquisition with dynamic documents. Prior to that, we actually had that group in-house, and we digitized all of our land agreements. And it was fantastic because a lot of people in the room are like, I'm a landman. I want to be able to go down, pull the file, and feel the pieces of paper and read through them. So there was a lot of pushback. Technology's scary. I totally get that. So we did a pilot program. We brought Rex in. Rex is now with Quorum, which is awesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And we brought them in and we did a pilot program. And we scanned every single one of our agreements, put them up on the jukebox, and said, hey, here it is, take a look at it. And within a week of that being out there, we got really good feedback from the land group. Hey, this is awesome. And then we started getting feedback from the landmen. Hey, I can see this while I'm out in the field. I'm negotiating an agreement with this property owner. I've already got an agreement with this property owner. I can pull that one up and start comparing it. Very good. We're getting there.
Yeah, that's
well. Now the field guys are out there going, hey, if you can scan that, can you scan my construction diagrams, my build diagrams? It's like, yeah, we can do that. So we went back and talked to them, and they're like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do a pilot. So now all of a sudden we've got all our construction diagrams out there. So every one of our pads is out there. So if we're out there with an inspector, guy calls it up on his laptop, here's what it's supposed to be, here's what was approved, we're in good shape.
Sure.
Started talking to the midstream group. All of a sudden midstream says, I want all my pipeline stuff, I want all my compressor plants, and it just kept building. And it was awesome because all that time, that paper was building up in our office. Office space in Denver is pretty expensive. So getting that paper out and giving us back that office space made my payout happen very quickly. I was able to see an ROI on that of months. But what it also did, which was probably more important, was it started putting that information back out to the end users where they could see it when they needed to do it and make the decision in a timely manner versus having to call back to the home office and get that information.
And try to sift through the paper.
Yep.
And go through that. And now today, I guess everybody appreciates all the paper and everything after you got it all in there. How long was that process?
It took us, I think for the land agreements, we knocked it out in about 4 months. Okay. A lot of that was sorting it and make sure everything was indexed correctly. So when it went up into the cloud, everything was indexed exactly the same. So when you did a search, it showed up in the same type of order, no matter what you searched on. Some of the other things were a little bit more difficult. Scanning in blueprints, when they're on normal copy size paper is really easy. When they're on a full page roll out, it's a little bit more difficult.
Sure.
How do you display that and all that? So, Rex and his team was instrumental in getting that out to us and making sure it worked.
That's great. Yeah, it gobbles it up, and I guess now it's searchable and all that good stuff.
Right.
So you spoke to, initially the pushback that you had from the group. How were you able to navigate that change in order to get that first buy-in of, well, let's, do this pilot program, or how can you speak to that?
It ended up coming down to dollars. The company I was with was expanding at a crazy rate. When I was hired on, I was approximately employee number 25. When I left the company, I think we were up around 300 employees. So,
wow. Yeah,
it was growing rapidly. So, office space, finding office space in Denver, then building it out is a large, time-consuming process. So, if I can get rid of an entire land file room within 4 months, you've now gained all of that space for offices or meeting rooms or whatever. It was, I now gave them another 4 months where they didn't have to build out. They didn't have to find more office space. They had a little bit of cushion so they could bring in the employees they needed. But I was also saving time where I didn't need as many employees running a file room because I had it all digitized now. So some of those employees could be repurposed to getting new files set so they were in the right order. So when we scanned them, they all were digitized the same and put out in the cloud the same. So they were all in, everything looked the same when it was up there.
Wow, that is a great story and definitely a great case. So then from there, what's the next step in your journey? You've got everybody online, everything's going great.
So the next step in my journey, I'd been talking to Quorum for many years. Back when I was in Houston, before I moved to Denver, after I moved to Denver, we just couldn't really get the time right. It just wasn't working out. And about 2 years ago, they reached out to me. They wanted to open up a Denver office. They wanted to increase their presence in Denver. And it was a good time. So we met, and I made the jump over to Quorum. And now I am working with their services group, directing multiple projects that are being implemented here in the Denver area.
Oh, wonderful. So in regards to the industry now, I'm hearing some things that acquisitions were kind of the fuel there for a little bit. Certainly don't want to ask you what your crystal ball is for 2020, but if you, you've discussed the path to get to where we are today, where do you see things going forward industry-wise?
So I think there's still a lot of legacy companies out there that probably aren't on the most recent technology. They're not taking advantage of everything that's out there. Dynamic docs is a perfect example. If you're doing acquisitions, you're doing divestitures, having that information out there and be able to put a fence around it so people who are coming in to look at your data room for an acquisition or divestment can see that without having to send people into town and having to pull people to, pull documents so they can only look at these. And, it starts speeding up that process. It makes it a little bit more transparent. So they're seeing all the documents you have. They don't even have to leave the comfort of their own office. So they can make the decision as to whether they want to acquire those properties or not. So speeding that up. It's all coming down to how fast can you get that information and how accurate can you get that information. The faster we can get information into the system, the faster we can get that information validated, the better controls we can put on that information so we know that what's going in the system is good, what's going into the system meets all our SOX requirements, that people are doing the right thing, they're getting the data where it needs to be, it's in the right place at the right time. That's what's really driving industry right now. Decisions are having to be made faster and faster. Drilling wells, when I started in the Gulf of Mexico, it would take, 3 or 4 months to hit total depth. My last employer is here in the DJ Basin, and they were hitting TD in 4 days.
4 days.
Yeah. So it's the technology is up on their side. They're able to drill wells better, faster, more accurately. We need to be able to keep up with that so they can keep getting that information better, faster, more accurately.
So it's definitely going to be about software and processes.
Exactly. The other thing, back when I started, best of breed was the phrase that was kicked around. So you would go to this client, this software company, and buy this piece of software, and you go to this software company and buy this piece of software to get your best of breed system. But then it was on the client to make those systems talk to each other and make that integration work. What we're seeing now is that a company like Quorum is here, and we offer a top-to-bottom solution, fully integrated. We have plug-in points, so if you have something that's outside, that information can come in and be digested and ready, available for reporting. So simplifying that purchase and getting everything to work together right out of the box is huge. It's a time savings, which is always big. It's usually a cost savings, which is always big. And from a support and maintenance standpoint, it's a better option for these companies.
So in regards to the relationship of customer to software provider, it's going to be ongoing. You're not going to necessarily buy a piece of software and go off and, we'll see you in 4 years. Through the subscription basis, that becomes more online. It's almost like you're kind of in a journey.
You're in a journey. You need to have a good partner with you. You need to have a partner that will listen to you and be there for you when you have issues, but also be there for you when you want to challenge it. There's things out there that none of us know. There's always going to be changes in the oil and gas industry, the midstream industry, et cetera, that we can't look into our crystal ball and know today. But if we're in a partnership, then I'm here to help you meet those needs, and you're here to tell me what you think those needs are going to be going forward, so we can work together and meet those goals.
Wonderful. So now you're in the Denver market. How would you describe the Denver market? What's the local scene here regards to oil and gas?
So the Denver market is very interesting. We have a lot of companies here who are based out of Denver, but don't necessarily operate completely within the state of Colorado. Flip side, we do have a lot of customers or potential customers here in the Denver area that do operate solely in the state of Colorado. The state of Colorado is undergoing a lot of change right now politically. It's becoming much more difficult to operate in the state. A lot of regulations, sound, noise, smell, distance from buildings, schools, wildlife refuges. You can fix that later, right? But it's getting a lot more difficult to operate here. So operators are challenged with, how do I do what I'm supposed to do? How do I drill that well as fast as I can, as efficiently as I can, and as cost conscious as I can, while still meeting all of these new regulations that are still being added and being a good neighbor. The company I left before coming to Quorum is a fantastic example of this. They were one of the first ones in Colorado to use electric rigs. So nearly dead silent.
Wow.
And you can stand right by them, and it's just a low hum.
And they've got the torque, and they've got
actually more torque than the diesel driven ones, and they're more environmentally friendly on the location. Also, during the last downturn, that same company partnered up with a major hydraulic fracturing company here, and came up with the Quiet Fleet. And basically, all the frac trucks are heavily insulated with huge steel doors and insulation on them, and they're so quiet that you're not even required to wear OSHA required hearing protection when you're standing next to them, as long as the doors are closed.
That is quiet.
So, being that good neighbor, doing what's right. I mean, we all live here. We're not here to pollute the environment. We don't want to destroy the environment. We don't want air pollution. We don't want noise pollution. We all get that. We all live here. Being that company, that group, et cetera, that industry that's pushing, just because the regulation says you have to do this doesn't mean you can't go beyond that. Doesn't mean you can't do the right thing and show, the public that, hey, we want to be, responsible. We want to be environmentally responsible. We want to do the right thing for you. It was a great experience working for that company and seeing what they were doing.
That sounds wonderful. And is that spreading?
It is. If you pick up the Denver newspapers, you can see that more people are using the quiet fleets. More of the frac companies are moving towards a quiet fleet. More of the companies are looking at electric rigs to reduce that noise. They're looking at operational times that don't affect nighttime hours. So neighborhoods, families that are living anywhere from 501 feet away from a site to a mile away from a site aren't affected by the bright lights, the noise, the odors, the truck traffic, anything to be a good corporate citizen is what's being pushed here right now.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that they're moving to that. I mean, of course, I'm just visiting to the Colorado area, but I definitely want to look up and be able to see the nice mountain snow and have it not look, too brown and muddy, or you'd be able to see it for once. So. Let's see. One of the suggestions was, could there be a combination piece to help local producers understand we get their needs and we are active in the area with these key players? So I guess to ask it another way is, you've laid out now what the Colorado trend is to these quieter, more eco-friendly, looking at, how can we be partners with the community and still build safe, less, more efficiently as well, and still meet our TDs. How do you see Quorum in regards to that, Stuart?
So we actually have a lot of Quorum clients in the Denver area, whether that's a true Quorum client, a previous FlowCal client, a Wellies client, or now a Dynamic Docs client. So we have a pretty good base here. We need to expand on that base. We need to become more visible. We have this beautiful new office here in Denver. We'd love to have customers or potential customers come up and visit us and sit with us and see what we have to offer, how we can make their business better. We'd love to have them here.
So wonderful. Well, I greatly, greatly appreciate your time, John, and the journey that you've had. It's one for the books. And
thanks for making me realize how old I am now.
No. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
And there you have it. We want to thank John again for sharing his story and his time. Please join us for our next episode when we will interview John Bowner, Director of Shipper Services with Black Hills Energy. See you then.